In Britain's towns and cities, behind closed doors, people are secretly preparing.
I'm preparing for a new dark age.
I'm preparing for a natural disaster.
I'm going to make sure that myself and those around me are prepared for anything.
They call themselves preppers, because for them, the end of civilization is coming, and they're prepared for it.
Within 10 seconds, you've got to don the mask.
If you go too late, you're dead.
These are the people spending their entire lives and thousands of pounds preparing for disaster. Are they paranoid and delusional, or is the rest of Britain mad for not joining them?
People say to me they don't understand why I am a prepper. I don't understand why you're not.
In the 21st century, we live in turbulent times. Violent civil unrest, financial chaos, and natural disasters are all common news stories.
The destruction here, they say, worse than anywhere else in Japan. 95% of the town gone.
People say to me, why are you a prepper? And I'm always baffled by it, because what I say to people is, I don't understand why you're not.
Possibly the greatest fear for any prepper is an impending natural disaster, and Michael is preparing for one.
If we look at Hurricane Katrina, the water level started to rise, and it got to a stage where suddenly they couldn't leave home, because now the water level is 30 feet deep, and my mum's 85 years old. You know, I've got young children. How do I get the family out? So they didn't leave, they stayed. And they expected somebody to come and save them. And nobody did.
In 2005, Michael watched the news that Hurricane Katrina had hit the Gulf Coast of America.
We haven't eaten in 3 days. Like to drown in my house. My house is totally gone.
I don't have home. I had a home downtown, but it's gone. It's under the water. I have nothing.
Water I have is right here. The clothes that I have on.
New Orleans was devastated by one of the deadliest storms ever to hit the United States. For this British prepper, it was a call to action.
What we see internationally is all these things happening on a day-to-day basis, but we don't think it could possibly happen here. Couldn't possibly happen here. Or could it?
If natural disaster strikes Britain, Michael isn't sticking around. It's what preppers call bugging out, and he keeps a trailer packed, ready to roll 24 hours a day.
What we've got here is my bug-out vehicle and bug-out trailer, and it's the provisions for me and my family for a minimum of 3 months. I think what we need as human beings is food, water and somewhere to sleep. And that's pretty much what's in this trailer. One of the hardest decisions you will ever make is when do you leave? Much better you go too early, because you can come back. If you go too late, you're dead.
1100 hours and Michael is bugging out. Of course, this isn't the actual apocalypse, it's a drill. But in a real emergency, Michael plans to be ready to leave home with his family in just 15 minutes. Five hours later, and Michael is set up at his secret retreat in Wales, where he plans to sit out the mock disaster using his military survival skills.
The provisions that we've got in place here allow us a slow and progressive transition to a simpler life.
In 2011, riots started in London and soon spread to other parts of Britain. Properties were looted, shops were torched, and mob rule took over.
If we were here in this very place 12 years ago, you'd have seen buildings on fire. You know, this was a riot hotspot. Towns and cities are dangerous places. You know, an awful lot of people fighting for the same resources, you know, is a dangerous place. What you're talking about is...
In a town in Hampshire, one man is preparing to survive a state of urban chaos.
To control any civil unrest, nerve gas, tear gas and type of chemicals might be used to subdue whatever civil unrest there is. So if for some reason I had to clandestinely and stealthily go through that area, I'd want to be protected.
This is an NBC suit, nuclear biological chemical. It actually protects you as best as possible from environmental contamination.
Pete Stanford is a personal development coach who's been a prepper for 5 years.
If there was WROL without rule of law, then it would be more of a militia that would be controlling civil unrest.
While most of Britain shut themselves indoors watching the riots in horror, Pete was planning his escape from suburbia to his secret bug-out location just 8 kilometres out of town.
This inflatable canoe is going to enable me to navigate on the waters to get to my bug-out location, which is on an island a little way from here. I do a dry run, a sort of practice run, at least every 6 weeks to 2 months, at least. I'm always keeping myself on charge and ready for anything, really. I'm ready to get in now, obviously stepping in backwards. So if it did give, you've still got terra firma to keep hold of.
To survive the breakdown in society, Pete plans to hide out on an uninhabited island in the middle of the river.
I'll be taking the canoe into the area of where one of my caches are, hide it there, keep it stored, then I'll be going to my main bug-out location.
A crucial part of Pete's plan is secret stores of equipment he's buried on the island in special caches.
The cache is marked by 3 different marks in a particular area, because if you don't have the marks and you forget, because the foliage changes from season to season and the ground gets overgrown, you're going to find a problem actually finding it. Okay, so extra ground sheet, vitamin tablets, tinned food, wire that I can use for snares, and then in this container, again, I can procure water, boil it up in here, but inside here there's loads of practical items. This box is about survival, basically, and I have another cache site elsewhere, so I don't keep everything in the same place purposely, because if it got sussed or someone was to steal it or I was to lose it, having it spread over the island in different places. So this is one, and I've got 2 others on the island as well.
Pete reckons he could survive alone on the island until civil order is restored.
There's a lot of natural resources here. Obviously, I've got the water that I can procure and then treat. A lot of the vegetation is edible. And also there's animals that you can hunt as well, as a last resort. Wouldn't do that, wouldn't even attempt to do that leisurely, but as a last resort, then obviously I would have to do that, because you need to eat to stay alive.
Hunters here use shooting towers, which basically focus on the forest line, and it gets you away from the animals so they can't smell you, they can't hear you. And basically you sit and you wait for the animals at dawn or dusk to come out of the tree line, and then you shoot them. My sister-in-law shot one from here. This is where she shot her stag last year. But it took her 20 times, sitting here all night waiting.
So hunting isn't as easy as people think?
God, no. Hunting's a really, really long process.
A deer can feed a family like Edward's for up to 6 weeks term. In Slovakia, Edward's been thinking about the bigger picture.
Any survival situation, one thing preppers do need to learn is how many animals you need to take. You have to have a breeding stock for the next year. You have to calculate how many animals and of what type should you take per year. For example, if you have an abundance of 3 to 4 year old bucks, then you will take one of those. You're not going to take a fawn because it could grow up and produce more. You have to be very selective in your culling. The only thing really you need is experience. Practice, practice and experience, because when the proverbial hits the fan, it's too late. You starve.
And will soon pass an austerity package that'll slash living standards.
In Stockport, Greater Manchester, one family is particularly worried. Noreen and Simon Dillon are preparing their house to be completely self-sufficient for when the British economy nosedives.
I do have industrial quantities of pasta and rice and beans and flour's starting to creep onto that as well now. There's a lot of money invested in this room, certainly is. The long-term food storage, which is this higher stuff up here, which can last for 25 years in these cans, that's quite expensive stuff. Everybody has life insurance, everybody has house insurance. I've just gone one step further and I've got myself some food insurance.
It's not a hobby, it's actually, this has become a lifestyle. We have our own food that we've grown, we have chickens, we make jams, we make preserves. We wouldn't need to worry.
For the Dillon family, self-sufficiency goes a lot further than just food. Their long-term aim is to be able to live completely off-grid. On the roof, there are solar panels, and the house is kitted out with emergency battery-powered lights. Even the loo has one.
You lift the toilet seat up, it lights the room up.
Why?
So I don't miss, because my wife would kill me if I missed.
For the Dillons, prepping is a family affair.
I think the kids enjoy the dad being a bit eccentric. They enjoy going foraging, they enjoy picking blackberries and eating most of them.
You can eat these anyway, if you want.
To pick both.
You got some gloves and you can pick some nettles. Pick the younger ones.
These
They're better for you. I do pass my knowledge on to my kids. My 2 younger children, especially Kaya. Kaya's really receptive. She loves it.
How does it make the nettles stop stinging?
It cuts the sting out of it.
With thousands of pounds worth of supplies in the cupboard and a nettle omelette on the table, are the Dillons ready for global financial collapse?
The food I've got in the food store and the chickens that I've got and the foraging that I do and the garden that I grow out throughout the summer, I could probably keep myself going for about a year.
Some of these preppers who believe that stocking up their terraced house with tins and tins and tins and that house will just be raided within days. I don't just stock up like some sort of hamster or squirrel and hope that the world passes me by while I can tuck in. You can't look at prepping like that.
In Slovakia, Edward thinks other preppers should follow his lead and be truly self-sufficient.
My family.
Hi guys and gals, it's Pete, Mindwise Man's channel, aka Maverick Outdoors.
My little channel has always been about survival.
For preppers, one way to improve their skills is to share their knowledge.
What I'm going to do with this video, I'm just going to do sort of a lot of bullet points really.
This is the spot I've decided to set my little camp up in.
Like many others, Mike and Pete demonstrate their latest preps by posting video clips on the internet.
Recently I've had requests about my kit. Dry sack there, and then in here is all my food.
Their internet videos get hundreds of hits.
We know about survival.
So it's OOS, out of sight, OOM, out of mind, LNT, leave no trace.
Both men have become friends by sharing tips on the internet over the last year.
How are you, Pete?
Hello, Mike.
But today, they're meeting in person for the first time at Michael's bug-out location in Wales.
I've got my Peak wood-burning stove out.
It's a chance to compare preps and see if they have anything to learn from each other.
Warm enough to heat my hands up, yeah?
Definitely.
Brilliant. This is a good place to bug out because of the terrain. Now I've actually come here to see it in person. There's so many different aspects to it that it's not inviting to a casual person that might be just marauding through it for no particular purpose. That's the 36-hour survival kit in there. I say, if this was emergency, well, I'd have to drop and dump everything and just take this with me. 2 alley pegs, poncho, come basher tarp, which I can shelter under or be on the move. Water filling bag to source some water, and then I've got dry food there, which I can, like noodles to heat up, but I can eat them dry, swig back the water.
Food, water, somewhere to sleep, mate. That's a nice little purse.
Yeah, it is.
That's the one I got given.
Oh, right.
That's the proper Maxpedition.
This is the Max?
Yeah, that's the one that come from the US. Pete's got some funky kit, you know. There were a couple of bits and pieces that he showed me that I have similar things.
Just over the top, central that, yeah?
That was good.
I was impressed with Michael's weaponry, considering in the UK there are very strict laws and regulations. So you have to be careful in the area that you practice your skills. Yeah. Central, but low. They're dangerous skills in the wrong hands, but we would use them for target practice, but also, if push comes to shove as a last resort, you can use those skills to feed yourself.
Considering you never used it before, mate, you're doing brilliantly.
Yeah, right.
Proof that prepping skills can always be sharpened up, but there's a serious side to this target practice.
The last thing you want in a serious situation is for someone to sneak up on you and steal all your preps. I would do everything possible to avoid a lethal confrontation. But if we ended up in a situation without the rule of law, would I use lethal force to defend my family? Every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Absolutely.
Bacchian retreats, to urban hideaways, to small islands in the middle of rivers, British preppers are getting ready for catastrophe. But are they paranoid? Or should the rest of Britain be joining them?
Is it our time now? We don't know. But all I'm making sure is that I've got enough things in place that if it did happen, I can ride the storm out a bit more comfortable than the bloke next door.
What I hope we have created here is a means of living through a disaster rather than just surviving it, and living in the long term and living well.
You should be prepared for whatever eventuality may happen, because you don't know what's round the corner.
I'll keep prepping because it's a sensible thing to do. Because I know the bad weather's coming and I'm doing something about it.
Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.